Have you ever walked away from an argument feeling utterly drained, replaying every word you said and wishing you could take it back? Or maybe you stayed silent, only to kick yourself later, thinking you let someone walk all over you. In those moments, it feels like your worth, your ego, your very identity is on the line. Society tells us that silence is weakness, that if you don't fight back with words, you've lost. But what if I told you that silence isn't surrender, it's a weapon? A weapon so powerful that two of history's greatest minds, Seneca, the Stoic philosopher of ancient Rome, and Niccolo Machiavelli, the Renaissance master of power, both wielded it to master themselves and others. In this video, we're diving deep into why you don't need to win every argument, just master silence. By the end, you'll see silence not as an absence of strength, but as a presence so commanding it can shift any situation in your favor. This isn't just about winning debates. It's about transforming how you navigate conflicts, relationships, and your own mind. So buckle up. This journey into the power of silence will change you forever. Let's start with a question. Why do we feel this burning need to argue? Think about the last time you got into a heated exchange, maybe with a coworker who dismissed your ideas, a friend who pushed your buttons, or even a stranger online who just wouldn't let it go. Your heart races, your palms sweat, words spill out before you can stop them. Why? Because we're wired to think that staying silent means we're weak, that we're admitting defeat. Modern psychology tells us this urge comes from deep within our brains. The amygdala, that almond-shaped cluster in your head, is your brain's fear and emotion center. When someone challenges you, it lights up like a fire alarm screaming, "Defend yourself, prove you're right." This fight-or-flight response isn't about logic, it's about survival, or at least the survival of your ego. We argue not to uncover truth, but to protect ourselves from feeling small, judged, or insignificant. But here's the trap. The more you argue, the more you give away your power. Seneca, one of the pillars of Stoicism, saw this clearly. Born in 4 BCE, Seneca lived through the chaos of Nero's Rome, advising emperors while navigating a world of betrayal and political intrigue. In his letters from a Stoic, he wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." What he meant is that arguments often hurt us because we let our fears, fear of looking foolish, fear of losing respect, take over. When you jump into a shouting match, you're not just fighting the other person, you're wrestling with your own insecurities. Seneca argued that true strength lies in stepping back, in refusing to let someone else's words pull you into their chaos. Machiavelli, writing 500 years later in Renaissance Italy, saw arguments through a different lens, as battles for control. In The Prince, his infamous guide to power, he noted, "A wise leader knows when to speak and, more importantly, when to stay silent." Machiavelli, a diplomat who survived the cutthroat politics of Florence, understood that words can betray you. The moment you lose your cool, you hand your opponent the upper hand. For him, arguments weren't about truth, they were about power. And the person who speaks too much, who reveals their emotions, is the one who loses. Both Seneca and Machiavelli, though centuries apart, agreed on one thing. Silence isn't just restraint. It's a strategy to reclaim control over yourself and the situation. Let's dive into Seneca's world first. As a Stoic, Seneca believed that the path to a good life lies in mastering your emotions. In his essay on anger, he wrote, "There is nothing so noble as to remain silent when others expect you to erupt." For Seneca, silence is an act of defiance, not against others but against your own impulses. Stoicism teaches that life is full of things you can't control. What people say, how they act, the chaos of the world around you, but you can always control your response. Silence, in this sense, is the ultimate act of self-mastery. It's you saying, "I choose not to be swept away." Picture yourself at a family dinner. Your uncle starts ranting about politics, baiting you into an argument. Your instinct is to fire back to prove him wrong. But Seneca would urge you to pause. By staying silent, you're not admitting defeat. You're refusing to play his game. Modern psychology backs this up. A 2017 study in the Journal of Social Psychology found that silence during a confrontation disrupts the speaker's momentum. Without your reaction, their brain scrambles to fill the void, often making them second-guess themselves. They wonder, why aren't they fighting back? Are they judging me? This is what Seneca called ataraxia, inner tranquility, a state where you remain unshaken, no matter how loud the world gets. Seneca didn't just preach this, he lived it. As Nero's advisor, he faced constant pressure, court conspiracies, public scrutiny, even the threat of death. Yet he practiced daily Stoic exercises to stay grounded. Each night he'd reflect on his day, asking, "Where did I lose control? How could I have stayed calm?" He'd imagine worst-case scenarios, betrayal, exile, execution, and rehearse staying silent, letting reason guide him. This wasn't passive, it was active discipline. Neuroscience supports this approach. Pausing before responding lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, by up to 30%, according to a 2020 study in Frontiers in Psychology. Silence doesn't just calm you, it sharpens your mind, letting you respond with clarity instead of chaos. Here's a real-life example. Meet Sarah, a 28-year-old marketing coordinator in Chicago. During team meetings, her coworker Tom constantly interrupted her, dismissing her ideas to look superior. At first, Sarah argued back, but it only escalated the tension. Then she tried Seneca's approach. The next time Tom cut her off, she stayed silent, holding steady eye contact. The room grew tense. Tom, expecting a fight, fumbled his words and over-explained himself. Sarah's silence shifted the dynamic. She didn't need to argue to command respect. Over weeks, Tom's interruptions faded. Sarah's calm silence made her the one in control without raising her voice. Now let's shift to Machiavelli. While Seneca sought peace, Machiavelli played for power. Born in 1469, Machiavelli navigated the brutal politics of Renaissance Florence, where a wrong word could cost you your life. In The Prince, he wrote, "Men judge by appearances, but silence conceals your true intentions." For Machiavelli, silence wasn't just about self-control, it was a weapon to unsettle others. By staying quiet, you become unpredictable, forcing others to project their fears onto you. This is what makes silence so powerful. It's a blank canvas for their doubts. Imagine you're negotiating a salary increase. You've made your case, but instead of filling the silence with nervous chatter, you pause. Your boss, expecting you to keep talking, starts to fidget. They wonder, are they bluffing? Do they have another offer? This is what psychologists call strategic ambiguity. A 2018 study in Negotiation Journal found that a 3 to 5 second pause during a conversation boosts perceived confidence by 20%. Silence creates pressure, and pressure reveals weakness. Machiavelli's genius was knowing that the less you say, the more others assume. Machiavelli's concept of virtue, the ability to adapt and shape outcomes, relies on timing. Silence is a tool of timing. By staying quiet, You observe your opponent's body language, their tone, their cracks. In an argument, the person who speaks first often loses because they've shown their hand. Machiavelli learned this the hard way. Exiled from Florence after a political fallout, he watched rivals destroy themselves by talking too much, revealing their plans. Silence, he realized, was a shield and a sword, letting you wait for the perfect moment to act. Consider John, a 35-year-old manager in New York. His team member, Lisa, constantly challenged his decisions in meetings, trying to undermine him. John used to argue back, but it only fueled her attacks. Inspired by Machiavelli, he changed tactics. When Lisa criticized him, he nodded, stayed silent, and let the room feel the weight of her words. Lisa, expecting a debate, grew flustered and over-explained, exposing her insecurities to the team. John's silence didn't just diffuse the conflict, it made him the one in charge. By saying less, he said more. Let's talk about how you can master silence in your own life. Seneca and Machiavelli offer complementary tools, one for inner peace, the other for outer power. Here are 5 practical steps to make silence your greatest asset in arguments, relationships, and beyond. First, spot the emotional trap. Before you dive into an argument, pause and ask yourself, what am I really defending, my ego or the truth? Seneca's Stoic wisdom tells us to breathe deeply and focus on what we control, our reactions. Try this. When someone provokes you, count to 5 in your head. This simple act rewires your brain, calming the amygdala's panic response. For example, if a friend criticizes your career choices at a coffee shop, don't snap back. Pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Often you'll find it's not. Second, observe like a predator. Machiavelli taught us to watch our opponents closely. When you're silent, you're not just waiting, you're gathering intelligence. Notice their tone, their body language, their choice of words. Are they fishing for a reaction? Are they hiding insecurity behind aggression? Every clue helps you stay one step ahead. For instance, in a family argument, instead of arguing with your sibling about who's right, stay quiet and listen. You might hear their anger is rooted in jealousy or fear, not the issue they're yelling about. Third, let time be your ally. Both Seneca and Machiavelli knew that silence creates tension. A prolonged pause makes others uncomfortable, forcing them to fill the void. This is where they slip up, revealing more than they planned. Try letting silence linger longer than feels natural, say 5 to 10 seconds. In a work meeting, if a colleague challenges your idea, don't rush to defend it. Hold eye contact, stay silent, and watch them squirm. They'll often backtrack or weaken their stance, giving you the upper hand. Fourth, speak less, say more. When you do break your silence, make every word count. Seneca and Machiavelli both valued precision over volume. A single, well-timed sentence can end a debate more effectively than a tirade. For example, instead of arguing with a coworker who's nitpicking your work, try saying, "I hear you, but I see this differently." It's calm, respectful, and shuts down the conflict without escalating it. Practice crafting short, powerful responses that leave no room for rebuttal. Fifth, practice daily reflection. Seneca urged us to reflect every night, asking, where did I lose control today? How could I have used silence better? This Stoic exercise builds resilience over time. Picture a moment from your day, a tense conversation, a moment you snapped. Replay it in your mind, but this time, imagine staying silent, calm, and in control. This rewires your instincts, making silence your default response. Let's look at Emily, a high school teacher in Seattle. She dealt with confrontational parents who questioned her grading methods. At first, she argued back, which only fueled their anger. Then she tried Seneca's reflection technique. Each night, she visualized staying calm in those meetings. When a parent accused her of favoritism, she stayed silent, listened, and responded with a single sentence. "I grade based on performance, but I'm happy to review the details." The parent, caught off guard, softened, and the conversation turned constructive. Let's explore another example to drive this home. Meet David, a 40-year-old software engineer in San Francisco. David had a toxic boss who thrived on public arguments, often criticizing his team to assert dominance. David used to engage, trying to defend his work, but it only made things worse. Then he combined Seneca's and Machiavelli's approaches. When his boss lashed out in a meeting, David stayed silent, maintaining a neutral expression. The boss, expecting a reaction, grew visibly uncomfortable and moved on. Later, in a one-on-one, David used a single, precise sentence to address the issue. "I'm committed to delivering results, and I'd value your input on how to improve." His silence in the meeting shifted the power dynamic, and his measured words earned his boss's respect. David didn't win an argument, he won the room. Why does silence work so well? Let's dig deeper. From a Stoic perspective, silence is about reclaiming your inner sovereignty. Seneca believed that every time you react impulsively, you give away a piece of your peace. By staying silent, you're saying, "I choose my response, not my emotions." This aligns with cognitive behavioral therapy, which teaches that pausing before reacting creates a gap between stimulus and response. That gap is where freedom lies. A 2021 study in Nature Communications found that a 10-second pause before responding reduces emotional reactivity by 25%, letting you think clearly under pressure. From Machiavelli's perspective, silence is about perception. People fear what they don't understand. When you're silent, others project their insecurities onto you. Are you judging them, planning something? This uncertainty is your leverage. In The Prince, Machiavelli recounts how Caesar Borgia, a ruthless leader, used silence to intimidate allies and enemies alike. By saying little, Borgia let others fill the gaps with fear or respect. You can do the same in modern life. Whether it's a tense boardroom meeting or a family feud, silence makes you a mystery, a force others can't predict or control. Let's pause for a moment. Right now, think about a recent argument in your life. Maybe it was with a partner, a coworker, or even yourself. What triggered you? Did you feel the need to prove something? Now imagine you'd stayed silent instead. How would the situation have changed? Take a second to picture it, feel the calm, the control. This is the power Seneca and Machiavelli want you to harness. To make this stick, let's explore one more scenario. Imagine you're at a networking event and someone makes a snarky comment about your career path. Your instinct is to defend yourself, to list your accomplishments. But try this. Smile, nod, and stay silent. Let the other person keep talking. 9 times out of 10, they'll trip over their own words trying to fill the awkwardness. You've just turned their jab into your advantage without saying a thing. This is what Seneca meant when he said, "Silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings." It's not about avoiding conflict, it's about mastering it. Now, let's address a common objection. Doesn't silence make you seem weak or passive? Not at all. Seneca would argue that silence is the ultimate act of strength because it requires you to conquer your impulses. Machiavelli would add that silence is only weak if you don't know how to use it. The key is intention. If you're silent out of fear, that's weakness. If you're silent to observe, control, or unsettle, that's power. The difference lies in your mindset. A 2019 study in Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that people who pause before responding in conflicts are perceived as 15% more confident and 10% more competent. Silence, when intentional, is a signal of strength. Let's break down another practical application. Suppose you're dealing with a toxic friend who thrives on drama. Every conversation turns into a debate, with them poking at your insecurities. Instead of engaging, try Seneca's Stoic pause. Breathe, count to 10, and stay silent. Then, if you must speak, use Machiavelli's precision. One clear sentence like, "I'm not here to argue, I value our friendship too much." This combination disarms their attack while keeping you in control. Over time, they'll either stop the drama or drift away because your silence refuses to fuel their game. To deepen this practice, let's add a Stoic exercise inspired by Seneca. Every morning, take 5 minutes to visualize a challenging interaction you might face. A critical boss, a pushy salesperson, a judgmental relative. Picture yourself staying silent, calm, and composed. Feel the power in that restraint. Then, at night, reflect on your day. Did you use silence effectively? Where could you improve? This daily ritual, which Seneca called premeditatio malorum, prepares you for life's battles, making silence your default weapon. Machiavelli offers another layer, strategic timing. In The Prince, he describes how leaders like Lorenzo de Medici used silence to manipulate negotiations. You can apply this in everyday life. For example, if you're buying a car and the salesperson pressures you to decide, don't rush to respond. Stay silent, let them talk, and watch them lower the price to fill the void. This tactic works because silence signals confidence, and confidence signals power. A 2022 study in Journal of Applied Psychology found that negotiators who use strategic pauses secure better deals 18% of the time. Let's reflect again. Think about someone in your life who triggers you, a coworker, a family member, a friend. What would happen if you met their next outburst with silence? Not a timid silence, but a deliberate, powerful one. Imagine the look on their face, the shift in the room. This is the moment you take back control. Seneca and Machiavelli didn't just theorize about silence, they lived it, and you can too. Now let's address another concern. What if silence feels unnatural? That's normal. We're conditioned to speak, to fill every gap. But silence is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. Start small. In your next conversation, pause for 2 seconds longer than usual before responding. Notice how it changes the dynamic. Over time, those pauses will feel natural, even empowering. Seneca spent years refining this discipline. Machiavelli honed it through political survival. You don't need their experience, just their wisdom. One final example. Maria, a 32-year-old nurse in Boston, struggled with a supervisor who micromanaged her every move. Every critique felt like a personal attack, and Maria would argue back, exhausting herself. Inspired by Seneca, she started practicing silence during her supervisor's rants. She listened, nodded, and responded only when necessary with short, calm answers. Her supervisor, used to getting a reaction, began to soften, even praising Maria's professionalism. Meanwhile, Maria used Machiavelli's strategy in team huddles, staying silent to observe her colleagues' dynamics. This let her anticipate conflicts and position herself as the calm leader. Silence didn't just save her energy, it made her untouchable. You don't need to win every argument to prove your worth. Seneca taught us that silence is how you master yourself, finding peace no matter the chaos. Machiavelli showed us that silence is how you master others, turning their uncertainty into your strength. By embracing silence, you become unshakable, a force that commands respect without a single word. Starting today, try this. The next time you're tempted to argue, pause, breathe. Let silence do the talking. You'll be amazed at how the dynamic shifts. If you're ready to wield this power, comment below. I choose silence to master myself. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to dive deeper into philosophy and psychology with us. This isn't just a video, it's your first step toward becoming the most powerful version of yourself. See you in the next one.